Muchas gracias, señor presidente. Avant toute chose, j'aimerais saluer cette initiative du BEPA et du haut-commissaire au plan, qui est une initiative formidable sur la communauté atlantique. Et j'aimerais dire particulièrement à mon ami Ahmed Lalimi le plaisir que j'ai de travailler avec toi depuis ces 2 dernières années sur ce sujet aussi important et qui me tient tellement à cœur. Je vais passer en anglais. I have the impression that everything has been said and done. I have an advantage over diplomats, because diplomats have to be polite. I'm an academic, so I can be totally irresponsible and say whatever I want without fear of any retaliation. So I'll start by saying that I have a problem with the concept of common Atlantic heritage. We shouldn't take that for granted. Everybody looks at this heritage from its point of view. Who inherits what? I don't think there is a consensus on what we call heritage in the Atlantic. There are good and bad things in our interdependent histories. So I think to build a community capable of managing managing responsibly what we call this heritage, we have to build a consensus about what it is. We have to define better what this heritage is, and we have to define it together. But this cannot be a top-down process, even if we have already all that was accumulated by the World Summits on climate change, etc. This has to be nobody, not a group of experts, neither governments, will impose or convince the others that its own vision is the best one on this. So to build some consensus, or at least some compatible visions of these problems, I think the only solution is, and I think everybody agrees here in this room, is a bottom-up process based on a multiple conversation that should be issue by issue in order to slowly build up this consensus about our common heritage in the way of building up also some consensus on the global issues. The Skirat conference has already put forward some of the most important points we could discuss, the most important issues we could discuss. Energy. We have a problem with energy now in this context because the huge discoveries of oil in the Brazilian offshore, but also in the African offshore, and the revolution of shale gas and shale oil in North America is really a huge energy revolution for the world. But that means one thing. That means that hydrocarbons are here to stay. So somewhere down the line, we're going to have a difficulty on putting together an economy based on hydrocarbons and green economy. This, I think, is one of the things that we could discuss and should be one of the issues, what would be the best mix in the Atlantic area of energy sources, including renewables and energy-saving technologies. Energy-saving technologies, renewables, hydrocarbon economy, how are we going to put all this together? I think this is a real theme. The other is agriculture, and I think we should talk about agriculture. For one reason, Africa and South America are the last big, huge agricultural frontiers of the world. North America and Europe are huge, big agricultural producers. That means that the Atlantic space will be, in the next 20, 30 years, the key to the quantities and price of commodities, agriculture commodities in the world. The Atlantic space is going to play a very key role on food security for the world. And I think we should discuss this problem in various ways. How can we put together balance agribusiness competitiveness with local farmers? What kind of agriculture we're going to do? All this has a huge impact on climate change and pollution. Water is a third issue. And what is interesting in water is that if you look at the map, South America and Central Africa are the places where we have the most important water possibilities. How can we optimize the use of water in this sense in the Atlantic community? Fourth, the tropical forests, and that we all know about it. How to have a sustainable management of this forest. Fifth, the question of urban management. It was said here before me that one of the big problems we're going to have is urban management in the future. And this is totally linked to the problem of climate and green economy. How are we going to manage this? And I would like to end this list, besides the development models that I already talked in the last panel, the question of the poles, Arctic and Antarctic. We like it or not, because of the climate change, there's a lot of new economic interests in both poles. And probably, like it or not, somewhere down the line, we're going to have a new discussion about the status of the Antarctic, not only the Arctic. So how can we balance protection of nature with new economic interests? So I would like to finish with a proposal, which is already, I'm saying nothing really original about it. Already other speakers have. The problem is that for the time being, we need a structure to promote and organize these many conversations that are issue by issue. I don't think a new institution, governmental institution or institutional framework is possible. I think it's a non-starter. There's too much difference between everybody. But I think that it's necessary to organize the flexibility of these dialogues, as Admiral Langsad said before me. We have to talk about the diversity of these themes, zones, participants that can be diverse. We have this proposal of Stuart Holliday, of Van der Hole, of Braga de Macedo on The Economist. It seems to me that this Kirat initiative could have a role as a kind of steering committee for this activity. A steering committee that could be a way of organizing this dialogue for the next 2 years. In some groups, we could form some groups that would make intermediate reports with workshops where we could put together also governmental officials and business people. And the next Skirat conference in 2 years' time could be based on the work of all these workshops and all these reports that were put together. And I think that this was a way for the Skirat initiative to keep the flame that Ahmed Lalimi said before us, of the final goal of this Atlantic Commission. But we have to start issue by issue, step by step, very concretely, building consensus slowly on this. And I would just would like to add one proposal is that on this, the Skirat conference and the groups that we could put together should also have more links with and more cooperation with the research centers of the big international organizations like the WTO, the OCDE, the World Bank, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because there's a mine of information and of people who would like to talk about this, and we could have a very fruitful relationships with them, the European Union, the research centers of these big institutions. So thank you very much, Ahmad, for this wonderful conference and for the BEPA. Thank you very much.